Okay, Michael, we are live on YouTube and you can begin whenever you're ready.
Great. Welcome everybody to the June 21st, 2022 Design Review Board meeting. I'm going to call us to order. We have a quorum of 4 members out of our 5-member board that we have at the moment. And I don't have any opening remarks. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Staff, do we have any approval of last couple of meeting minutes to approve?
Yes, we have June 7th and June 14th meeting minutes to approve.
Great. Do I hear a motion to approve June 7th and June 14th meeting minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, great. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All right, motion passes. Now I'm looking for any general member comments that do not pertain to an application tonight. You'll have your chance to speak about any application that's tonight, but any general member comments? All right.
Yes,
So,
we do have a general member comment from, is Karen Anton on?
I thought she was wanting to talk about Hunter Woods ball field. That was the one I forwarded you.
Yes, she said
Yeah,
she had
yeah.
a general member comment. 'cause
I
she
think
didn't register.
that's in reference to the Hunter's Woods ball field. We can see. Looks like John Farrell has something to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me,
Hey, oh, did you guys mute John?
there,
No, we didn't mute him. But Karen did have a member's comment. She said she wasn't informed of that. Did you want her to speak during the review of that application?
If it's in reference to the Hunter Woods ball field, I think it makes the most sense. So that way we can get through the first 2, and then we'll get there.
I think I'm unmuted now.
There you are, John. Do
Thanks.
you have a general member comment?
I do, actually. As some of you may know, I've been appointed to liaison with DRB. I've recently joined the Reston board, so I wanted to say hello. The other thing, and I mentioned this to our staffer, is during last week's meeting, and I've seen this on a couple of occasions, issues related to the county review and approval of some of the applications that DRB acts on sometimes get in the way, or the applicant becomes unaware of or believes that the DRB action is final action and doesn't recognize that there is a county approval or a county review likely to be involved. And I've been thinking about that because I've seen it for a couple of years now, that homeowners think that the DRB is the last step or the last action, and don't realize that they still need to go to the county to get a building permit or a site plan approval. And so I've suggested that maybe DRB or staff look at incorporating a kind of disclaimer paragraph toward the end of the decision letter that says that DRB approval is not an exemption from county review and approval of the application. I think from a membership point of view, I think that will clear things up for people, so that they don't walk away with the misimpression that they don't need to get a building permit or a site plan approval. In particular, I was thinking last week, you all had that conversation at the panel level regarding the setback, and then somebody else wanted to build a walkway over a drain pipe. Well, that drain pipe is probably subject to a county easement, and the county easements tend not to allow people to put structures over them. So that kind of disclaimer or advisory thing, I would hope DRB would start to include that kind of a disclaimer in its decision letters, so that people aren't caught unawares of the need to obtain or submit for county review and approval before going forward. And also, there should be language that says if the county review requires changes to the application, that the applicant needs to come back to DRB. So I'd hope we could put that in and enhance our customer service approach. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think we have minor language. I'm not sure to what extent staff would have to comment on that, but I think we do have something in there that says about approval, but staff could correct me if I'm wrong. But I think addressing, yes, I was on the panel last week that involved those couple things that were quite important for the actual decision we were making from the county's point of view. So staff, if you guys could look into that, I think it's a great idea. And John, welcome. Hopefully we will not bore you too much. It should be a good one tonight. So
hey Michael, just
Yeah.
a quick thing. I think I'm hearing John Farrell might be interested in helping staff with the verbiage, and if he send me an email with what he thinks the verbiage should be, with all his infinite wisdom, we would be grateful for his assistance.
absolutely. John, you think you can help him out with some disclaimer language? He's muted, but I'm sure he's shaking his head yes.
I'm happy to help my good friend Cam Adams out.
Perfect.
It's going to be August before I can get to it, Cam, but yeah, I can put something together for you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's move into tonight's agenda. We have first up on application for review is Southgate Condominiums is looking to get some security cameras approved. Is the representative from Southgate Condominium on?
I'm checking to see.
I see Vector Software, but I don't see Jane, Tobin, or Carla. I think I see.
I'm here.
Okay. Carla, who
I'm-
else is with you?
I believe Jody, the treasurer, is on too.
Jody, if you could raise your hand so we know who you are. Is your contractor here as well, Carla?
No, he's not. I did mention the meeting to him. I just don't know if he joined or not. I'm actually on vacation.
Okay. If Jody's in the room, if you could raise your hand so we can unmute you. But otherwise, Carla, the floor is yours.
Yes, we've had a lot of incidents over the past few years. A lot of Cadillac converters have been missing from cars. We come to work in the morning and we find cars up on cinder blocks where their whole wheels have been taken off. And also in the area, there's been shootings, robberies, and we're just trying to protect our property. I did put in a site map for the cameras, for the locations of the cameras, and you can see that it's all for our property, for the parking lot and behind the buildings. We are also looking to get door locks eventually for the actual lobbies. That's the next project we're going to be working on. So did you have any questions for me?
So let me, sorry, I think we're having some technical difficulties that staff's working through with the presentation. So from what I see, so you guys are looking to have 62 cameras be installed. There's no like mounting details of exactly how these are going to be mounted. Are they going up under the soffits? Are they mounting to the brick? Are they?
They're coming in under the eaves.
Okay, so they're going to be tucked up under the eaves. Okay. And then is the final color of the camera going to be white, or do you know if they make a black option?
They don't make a black or brown. It has to be white. And I talked to the guy saying that we might have to paint them, and that would void the warranties on them and maybe cause us problems in the future to paint them a color.
Okay. And the only reason why I ask, and I'm sure you've seen it, but we have our security devices, design guidelines that we like to follow that basically say we like to, keep them to be somewhat the same color of what they're mounted to. And that they're hardwired, there's no visible wire or conduit, etc.
Right.
So I would love to see I know he says this brand doesn't have any, but have there been any other options? Because I know there's black cameras that exist out there. Even I think just black would look better than the white. The buildings just don't have any white elements to even tie off of. So I'm just.
Well, we also want people to notice them to deter people from stealing and doing what they're doing. If we have the same color, they won't even notice them, and it's still going to be an issue. Even if we have cameras, that's still no guarantee we're going to see somebody's face, to be honest. Okay, so we know that, but we're trying to deter more trouble. Reston is growing so big. And with the metro station opening, hopefully in the next 90 days or something, I think I heard, it's just going to cause more people there. We have a lot of homeless that come in the building, but if people know we have cameras, and then, like I said, we're going to do door locks next, hopefully that deters people from being on our property. That's not supposed to be there.
All right. Well, let me go around the room. Let me see if anybody else on the board has anything for you, and then we'll discuss. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Great. Jim, did you have any questions for the applicant?
No. Just one comment. Would it be possible to have some kind of signage from the security company that identifies that the property is, that it has cameras? Maybe that would be one way of putting it out there.
We would like to install some small camera signs at our entrances, and maybe right where the pathway goes through, so people are aware of them, but we have to have them before we can even put signs out. You know what I mean?
Okay. Jim, did you have any other questions?
No.
Bruce, did you have any questions, thoughts?
No, you've raised the challenge that the design guidelines are looking at this from a perspective of design, and the applicant is looking at this from the perspective of functionality. So yeah, you've highlighted the issue for us. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, did you have any questions?
Nothing additional, sir. Thank you.
So the only thing I have would be, and I'm sure the security camera guys have gone around and it seems like, and I'm not a security professional, but another thing our guideline says is that, we request kind of 2 per elevation. Now, obviously your elevations are quite large, so I think we could argue that there's multiple elevations that we're kind of attaching these to. So every building unit is an elevation close. So I think we're somewhat meeting that guideline of 2 per elevation. It just seems like some of them are kind of redundant in where they're looking. And maybe it's because of this type of camera. It looks like it's not like a wide angle. It looks like it's more of a direct. Is your contractor on, or is he not on here?
I don't know. I can't see the list of applicants. He would be from Miles Technology, but like I said, I did send him the information. I just don't know if he was able to join.
We do see Jody, if Jody would like to speak to the application. Jody, we're trying to unmute you. Can you hear us, Jody? Jody is unmuted.
Okay. I can't, who is Jody? Is she part of the application or management or?
She's the treasurer. She's one of the board members.
She's saying that she can hear, but her audio is not coming through.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the biggest challenge, and I guess I'll just move it into kind of discussion between my board members. We'll ask Carla if we have any questions. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
I think our guidelines, unfortunately, are kind of clear about that they need to be. And I know we've reviewed multiple security applications, and for single homeowner houses, we require the camera to match the item that it's mounted to. So then to approve 62 cameras that it doesn't match, I think it kind of goes directly against what our guidelines state. I think the mounts and the camera size and the locations are meeting our guidelines. I think it's strictly a color issue. I'm not sure. I know they make black security cameras. I know obviously this one is not, but I don't know what you guys think about that for this application specifically.
This is Bruce. I was going back to the guideline and just to make sure that some of the guidelines are more, give more room in terms of a specific situation as opposed to this one, which doesn't leave a lot of room for our interpretation or. So I agree with your concern there, Michael. And the challenge that we have viewed many applications under these guidelines and always applied the matching color portion of the guideline.
Because I think the quantity, I understand the need, right? And I agree with Jim. I think even if we're able to get the cameras to be a little bit more within our guidelines, from a color perspective, I'm okay with, some signs also throughout the property that says, this site is securely monitored. And that I think will help deter some of the crime that's been happening. So it's a tricky one for sure. Mike, Jim, do you guys have any other thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, could we put forward a motion to have them come back with a different camera that, puts it over into the black color and then, allows signage?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm curious, Carla, what is your guys' current lighting situation there? Have you guys looked into your lights, and are they adequate?
We actually installed like 50 some LED lights on the back of the building. We upgraded. We went through Reston. We did that a few years ago, and most of the lighting is adequate. It's just that they're so fast because they're professional thieves that they can get away with it. But see, they have to come on property either with a car for the tires or something. So we're hoping to get a license plate, a make, a model, something to give to the police. And it's not only in Reston, it's everywhere. You hear it on the news. But we've had one guy get his catalytic converter stole 3 times. I mean, that's enough to make anybody want to move. And Reston, I've been there a little over 10 years, and it was not like that before. It's just really gotten worse the past few years. the color of the cameras, I don't know if we're gonna find high quality cameras in black or, well, I was looking for brown because we're brown, everything is brown. But if you say black, maybe I can take another look and see, but most high quality cameras are white.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a security professional. I just can't imagine that they don't have black cameras. I mean,
Okay.
I feel like that would be a possibility. So I think what we can do is I'm fine with, and if you guys are okay with it, I'm fine with doing a motion to approve it, but make a stipulation that the cameras be black. And then that way you guys don't have to come back. If you guys can get a black camera, even if it's a slightly different one, it's roughly the same size that you're presenting and it's installed in the same manner. That way you guys won't necessarily have to come back through this. I mean, would that be something that you'd be open to?
I'm open to anything to try to make our property more secure. And like I said, I never looked into black. I'm just hoping I can find the same high quality in a black or a brown camera versus the white. Because I mean, I just want people to know that we have cameras, and so they will stop, because a lot of people are moving out. A lot of people think it's dangerous now in Reston.
Michael, I do see Joel Kimball on. Do you have questions for?
I don't know who Joel. I don't know who Joel is. Is that the vendor?
It's the vendor.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him.
I'm not the vendor. I'm just with Ivy Oak Square. Sorry for the confusion.
My apologies.
Okay.
So, Jody just actually texted me and said something about the cameras overheating being black.
I mean, isn't the point that we're asking to come back and advise of whether there are alternatives to the white? And if you're going to come back and say there's not, because I think if overheating is a problem, that's going to be, we're not going to find black cameras. So I think we're talking about having a conditional approval, Michael, subject only to the verification of the color of the camera. But I was also wondering whether you also would consider a motion, anything to maybe help with the signage.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think we need to see the signs before we kind of approve them. But I think it'd be worth, saying tentatively, we're including the ability to come back with a sign, multiple signs wherever they want to, put them at the front of the neighborhoods. I think is a great idea, kind of as you're coming into the neighborhood. To have something that says, site is securely, video monitored or something to that effect that meets our sign guidelines, I think would be a good option. Also, if the cameras are tucked up underneath the soffits, they're not going to overheat from the sun because they're going to be out of the sun. So I'm not too worried about that. My quick novel research on the internet, there's thousands of different black cameras out there. So
Okay.
I think your vendor will be able to find something. So to make it easy on you, we can do a conditional, approval that just, need to send over to staff what the final camera selection is. That's either black or a dark bronze, or, bronze would be also another term instead of brown. If you're looking for bronze, it would be another architectural term that you might be able to find from a color standpoint. That might be kind of the easier method. So I'll make a motion to approve the application with the following amendment: that the color of the camera be a bronze, a dark bronze, or a black, and that the applicant submit what the alternative camera is to staff for final verification.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Carla. All right, moving on to Ivy Oak Square Condominium Association. They are looking to improve their site lighting.
Yep. Hello, this is I'm Steve Archibald, Vice President on the Ivy Oak Board. We have Kevin Danaher is the President of the Ivy Oak Board. He is on as well for Ivy Oak. Joe Kimball is Ivy Oak Board as well. And Chris Stroik, who is on, is our lighting designer from Stroik Lighting Design. We were here a couple of years ago, Michael, and I think you reviewed our application for siding paint color changes and house numbers. And at the time, we asked you a couple of questions on what we're going to come back with. So a couple of years later, a pandemic, half a pandemic later, we're back with our design and hoping to be able to find a way to move forward.
Great. How did all the siding come out? Does it look good?
It has made such a difference. And I tell you what, with the lighting too, we're going to repave when we do the lighting. It's just going to really get us really close to where we want to be with this design project we started in about 2015. So we'll be coming back in the next year or two with some front entrance stuff for mailboxes and front entrance lights, maybe some site signage. But this one really
Awesome.
is the crowning piece.
Well, I guess let's walk through kind of what your light selection is. I don't know if you want.
Yeah, if Chris can be unmuted, he could give you a good rundown on kind of what we looked at and how he designed it and what he looked at, and give you the professional piece, and then I can walk through any other, fill in any gaps.
Great.
Hello, everybody. This is Chris Stroik, and we were tasked to explore a way to mostly focus on the pathways, as you know, that circumvent or are adjoining mostly the parking areas, driveways and parking areas. So we looked at a very efficient approach, very simple approach that is designed really mostly to concentrate light on the pathway and into the driveways. So as I'm sure you're familiar, the pathways scribe along the perimeter of the parking and driveways, and currently there are probably a handful. I'm not sure how much you know about the existing, but there are fixtures, pole fixtures that are occurring fairly far apart. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 150 feet apart, and they're, if I remember correctly, Steve, they're I think 8 to 10 feet tall.
Right. Yeah. All different heights and different head space.
Yeah. So our approach is to unify it with a very simple, very modern expression that is not meant to sort of draw a lot of attention to itself. It's primarily designed to be as glare-free as possible, but obviously generate efficient and fairly wide-spreading illumination along the pathway proper and into the drive lanes. So and the consequence of that kind of very asymmetric throw of light, as it turns out, is that we put less light into the residential or onto the residential buildings or into the windows and doors. So it's really designed to try to be very, put light where you really want it to be. And our approach was to our intent was to generate a uniformity, because the more uniform the pathway is, the more comfortable one is as they make their way through the pathway, in terms of feelings of security and also safety. And this we had to compromise a bit with that. It's not super uniform, but it's much more uniform than what is currently there, and it's very consistent with what I would consider to be a sort of a suburban condition as opposed to an urban condition. However, I should also mention that all these light sources have full cutoff, meaning the distribution from the source is directed in a downward trajectory. So I'm not sure what else. That's sort of an executive summary, I would say, but maybe there's some other things, Steve, or questions.
No, yeah, I think that was great. We paid particular attention to making sure there's no light trespasses into the houses. Currently, we have globe fixtures that in some cases are located 1 to 3 feet from second-story bedroom windows. The height we're looking at for these fixtures that we've tested out is it 12 feet, I believe? And
yes.
Off, so that doesn't allow light into any of the second-story windows. Plus, all the dimensions are dimensioned where the light wouldn't trespass back into the houses anyhow. We've looked at the lights with a dimming feature that will dim down from, I think it's 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning to 40% of capacity just for an energy savings, and so that we're not unnecessarily lighting everything up to give that quiet rest and dark sky feel as well. The lights are a dark bronze, the poles are a dark bronze, poles are square, the head. As you looked up above the one slide below what we're looking at right now, slide 15, if anyone's able to click on that, or PDF page 15 of the presentation, that will show you the fixture on the left above, which is 33.7 inches wide. So we've had this up as a mock-up for a while. It felt just the fixture was a little bit 2747-ish for the pole. And that's really, we've looked at it for a little while. So we found a final fixture that was the same light, but in a smaller head. So that's what the application is for. This is the mock-up we've tested. Due to the lighting fixture delays, we're still waiting on the final mock-up to get here to approve. So I don't know if there's any way to conditionally say either one of these is approved. We can stick with the one we're applying for that's in the plans. That's fine too. But that's our final. The lead time on the light fixtures is so long right now and unpredictable, and we're trying to get this project done by the end of the year before the asphalt plants will close. The plan for the trenching is to trench through the parking lot and repave the parking lot right behind the trenching, and the light poles will go up after that. We've had multiple, over the last 2 years, multiple community meetings on this. Slide 25 there gives you the photometric study, or page 25, I'm sorry, gives you the photometric study that you can, the red dots, the lights, and you can zoom in and you can see the lumens per the area.
Foot candles.
Foot candles, yep. Thank you, Chris. We also had an electrical engineer with GPI Engineering. They've done the electrical and the trenching plans for us. Upon approval here, we'll be submitting to Fairfax County for our electrical permit and all other required permits. I mean, I heard the piece in the beginning here, that is something that we fully understand, that this has to be permitted and inspected by Fairfax County and approved by them as well. We just figured you guys, residents going to be, we want to make sure we had residents approval before wasting any time going through the permitting a different, with Fairfax County.
Okay, great. Well, let me go around the room, see if anyone has any questions, and then we'll we'll have some discussion. So, Jim, did you have any questions?
No, I think the smaller head is a good way to go.
Mike, did you have any thoughts? Mike, he's still on. He dropped off.
He is on, but we're trying to mute him. If we could unmute and make MCB iPhone a co-host, please.
There we go. No, I didn't
Mike.
have any commentary. There we go. You got me, guys?
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Apologies there. Dropped off. The audio was bad. But
There you
no,
go.
I didn't have any further commentary there. I think the plan was great. Thank you for all the detail. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bruce, you have anything?
I just wanted to confirm some things, and one was what you've already mentioned is the height of the poles, because that's been as you understood, in some communities, a source of consternation. So I think that 12 feet appears to be addressing that potential concern. I was trying to make sure I understood from the application the number of poles you're talking about here. I mean, I see the existing light survey and the existing light demo drawing, but maybe I just didn't understand where you're identifying the number of lights and poles we're talking about replacing. So, yeah.
Sure, it's nice. It's in that application, I believe. It shows the existing number is, let me see. Existing number is page 19 of the attachment to the application, shows the 19 existing poles.
Yep, I understand.
From memory, this is about 35 to 39. I'm looking for where it's a really good question.
Yeah, so it kind of leads to my question. Go slide 31. So 31 shows 30 new poles. Some of them are double. Some of them are double lights. Is this the final plan that we're approving here?
No, I'm not sure, to tell you the truth, how this got into this is the application. This wasn't part of the app. This was a earlier rendition that I could see how maybe our management company might have submitted. It's the general concept. The double poles went away.
I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 43, something in that quantity, and that's my understanding. But Steve, you do have that latest plan that shows the correct quantity, or the.
Yeah, this one here is definitely an older rendition. Apologies if I don't know what page that would have got submitted under.
I mean, there's page 25 that's done by Stroik Lighting Design that shows about 42 poles. I'm just quickly counting them.
42.
This doesn't have any of the photovoltaics though on it. Have you guys done a photovoltaic study?
Sorry. Photovoltaic study?
Well, just kind of like, you know, how on the previous sheet I had kind of what the throw of each light was, because now we're talking, this 40, you know, almost over double the existing poles. So I just wanted to see where the throw was.
Yeah, the photometrics, I assume, is what you were referencing, the calculations. Sure. Yeah. If you zoom in, I don't know if who's has control, but if you're able to zoom in on this sheet, you can actually see a plot that we did, which is our points in this case. And so each point represents, it's rough, I think it's a 2-foot grid. If I remember correctly, 24-inch grid. And that shows you what the values are on those horizontal surfaces based on the calculation that using software.
Gotcha.
And that was overlaying the photometrics from the specification of the fixture onto the grid plan. So it shows you can see it's really dropping off right at the houses, but right under the lights, it's 2.1, 2.5, 1 point, that lights the sidewalk consistently throughout and stops any light trespasses into the houses.
Yeah, just to give you kind of an overview on this, what these points represent is that we are averaging about 0.59 foot candles, and the maximum is identified as 2.2, and the minimum is 0.1. And so the average to minimum ratio, which is often what you really want to kind of understand, is roughly 6, meaning 6 to 1. And the maximum to minimum ratio is 22, as you can probably tell, because there's 2 foot candles directly underneath these luminaires, and then as little as 0.1 between them.
Okay. And what is the color temperature of all of the selected fixture?
Yeah, look on the submission page. We went with a warmer temperature. If you go to find where that is in the application.
Yeah, I want to say it was 2,700, but it also might be 3,000. I'm trying to remember that. Sorry.
Yeah,
either one is acceptable. I just wanted to make sure we weren't going north of 3,000. So typically, what we recommend is 3,000 maximum for site lighting. So it sounds like as long as you guys are in there.
Yeah, we're definitely on the warm spec. Warm color.
That's great. I guess staff. I mean, ultimately, I'm just asking these questions because the application is not exactly. There's a lot of information, but there's a lot of apparently old information. There's a lot of, we need to know. So from what my understanding is, there's 19 current poles. We are replacing those with 43 new poles, is what I count. They're suggesting a fixture with 3,000 Kelvin. It's got a 24.4 inch, I think, head size, 12-foot height, and I believe that kind of sums up roughly what they're presenting. And it's a square pole, correct? It's a square dark bronze pole. You guys,
dark bronze pole, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, those parameters correct. And apologies again for the submission. We went through a little bit of haste in doing the scheduling and working with the management company, and of course they have all kinds of prior records and emails. So I'm sure that's where the confusion came.
Yeah, no worries. I'm very happy with your submission that you guys have done this due diligence, because some neighborhoods just come in with a new fixture that Dominion offered, and this is all we can get, and they don't do a mock-up, they don't do anything, and then half the neighborhood hates it as soon as it gets installed. Yeah. So I think you guys have gone about it the right way. I just want to make sure we have everything clear for the approval's sake.
I think the summary is good. If you can approve it under that basis of what you've just summarized due to the conflicting information, I would say we do, and we'd like to seek your advice in when we execute this project, when issues come up working with an arborist of a main tree root is here and we have to move 1 or 2 feet to the left or the right, or there's 2 locations that we're trying to figure out and work with the arborist for how we're going to get a light in there. So I think any advice on, would you like a resubmission afterwards of essentially the as-built if we have to omit, or working with Stroik Lighting, have them advise us on the best relocation of 1 or 2 fixtures? I don't think it's much, but I think we'll run into 1 or 2 areas where we kind of have to get into construction to figure out.
I mean, anything drastic, let us know. But I think roughly, as long as you're staying within, let's say a 5-foot radius is probably fine. And obviously, if you do have to end up removing any sort of trees or anything like that, obviously you guys know the process for that.
No, we remove the trees. We'd rather kind of omit a fixture if it came down to a tree or a fixture.
Perfect. And I believe that's all my kind of clarification, and I am fine with kind of doing a motion with all those kind of clarifications, just so you guys can, keep going and get your fixtures ordered, et cetera. So, does anyone else on the
Michael?
board have anything? Yeah.
Oh, before we go on, I'll just step in. I just found the fixture schedule in my files. It may not be included in this package that you have, but in our schedule that we issued about a year ago or so, Steve, it's 3,000 K color temperature, and there's 3 different types of poles. Just so we're clear, pole
throws, right?
they're just, it just has to do with the optical package, So there's an A, B, and a C. Just so you're aware in terms.
Right. So some lights may project farther than other lights, is what you're saying, but they all look the same.
Issue is that some of them. Yeah. Yes. And they also have when they're mounted next to the buildings, they have a shield on. It's called a house side shield to reduce glare or distribution toward the building. And then the third thing is I found it to be a 4-inch diameter pole, Steve. So I'm not sure. We should make sure that.
Oh yeah, it's a 4-inch diameter pole. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a square pole. It's a round pole.
Square pole. Yeah. No, that was one of the things I think there was a back and forth on, but we
Okay.
All right. So 12-foot, 4-inch diameter poles.
12-foot, 4-inch square diameter poles, dark bronze.
Hold on. You can't say square diameter because they contradict each other. So is it square or is it a circle?
It's a square.
It's a square. Okay.
Yeah.
But what Chris is saying is that he has on his schedule a 4-inch diameter, which means a 4-inch round pole. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is what you're saying, correct?
That's what we have currently. So we can just update that to get it in a line. We can align, the ultimate schedule when the order goes through. Yeah.
And then, Chris, since you do have the schedule, is it 43 lights? Did I count correctly?
Yeah. Well, it is. However, Steve, there was 1 or 2 that were problematic. If I remember your discussion with me a week or 2 ago.
And if you, I'm so upset.
It would be a maximum of 43, but there's a potential that there might be 1 or 2 that we have to, because of some conflicts. But 43 was the maximum.
Could I make a recommendation to defer to receive the updated schedule?
I hate to defer because I want them to be able to order their lights so they can get that process going. Can we do a motion to approve and just suggest that they send you in the schedule to verify what I'm about to read off? I've been taking diligent notes. So I'm going to make a motion with the following. I motion to approve the light application, the update site lighting application from replacing 19 existing lights with 43 lights with 12-foot poles, 24.4-inch heads, a maximum of 3,000 Kelvin temperature, and they will be mounted on 12-foot high, 4-inch square poles. And this applicant will follow up with staff with the final fixture schedule if any lights may not be installed due to tree interference.
Michael, could I suggest some amendments?
Yeah.
Just for clarity. One, that you might want to include the opportunity for the applicant to relocate the pole on the plan no more than 5 feet. That's what you had suggested, just so they have that flexibility. And the other thing I would suggest is that it's no greater than 43, because what I'm understanding is then if they come in with fewer, if everything else is the same, then they don't have to come talk to us.
Okay, I accept your amendments.
If that's your motion, I would second that.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Everyone understand the motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, and yeah, see you soon for the front entrances. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to Hunters Woods Ball Field redevelopment.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, so if you guys could do a presentation, and then I will hear from the affected parties for member statements, and then I will we'll come back to you with any questions. All right.
All righty. Well, this is Larry Butler. I will just kick this off and state that this is the culmination of a very long process. Most of you, or some of you, I think, were involved in the August 2020 approval of the concept plan. And so what we are bringing forward tonight is the actual site plan as required by the DR approval in 2020 to bring back further specifications and so forth. And we've gone through a very broad community process, working with the local neighborhoods and so forth. And I think what we have is a plan that is fully supported by virtually everybody in the Hunters Woods area, the neighborhood coalition, all the members that we were involved with very early on. And for the more technical aspects, I'm going to let Chris Shoemaker discuss that, because he's really been leading, that effort with Kinley Horn, who is our engineer on the project. But we're excited to get this moving after so many years, frankly. And I know the community around there is very excited to see this go forward. You will note there's no lighting on this plan, so that we do intend to bring some lighting on the pathway near here. And it actually was Chris Stroik that was on this call earlier that we've been working with on that. And so that is a future consideration. So that is not on this application tonight. So, we're happy to answer any questions. The overall intent is to take this old ball field that's no longer used by Reston Little League, or Reston Herndon Little League now, and make it something that is of value to the local community by putting in a walking circuit that can be used by the Hunters Woods Fellowship House residents, as well as others, and bring some life to this spot that's frankly surrounded by woods on half the site and the Hunters Woods Village condominium on the other half for the most part, and create something of benefit to the local community. So that's my intro. Chris, you want to talk about any of the details?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. So yeah, as Larry described, it's going to really reactivate this site by including these walking trails. The outside perimeter one is an 8-foot asphalt walking path, and then the center line one is a concrete one. We have some other design elements included in there with those pathways. A lot of new vegetation is going to be installed, and any tree removals that we'll be taking out will be replaced with new tree plantings. I would say that really the only major change from the initial concept design versus the one you see here tonight is the relocation of that rain garden, which was originally kind of in that middle portion of that lower leg of the path. It had to be moved over, and that was really because of the easements of some of the utilities going through the site that were where that was originally. So we had to relocate that off, kind of into a slightly different position. But beyond that, the concept has remained largely the same as it was originally proposed.
Great. Well, let's hear from the members for some member comments and affected parties, and then we will come back with any questions. All right, Chris, Larry.
That's fine.
So staff, do you guys have a list of anyone who wants to speak in reference? And just a reminder to affected parties or member comments, we limit them to 3 minutes a piece, unless you're representing a group, which is 5 minutes. So staff, take it away.
We had a previous affected party. Julie, are you on? I don't see her on, but we do have Karen. We can come back to Julie, but I don't believe that she's on. She didn't provide an updated affected party statement. Ms. Anton?
Hi, thanks, LaShonda. Thank you all. Julie Doherty is conducting her own board meeting tonight, and that's why she's not here, or I assure you she would be. I don't have a whole lot to add to what Larry has already said. You all know the background on this, or most of you do anyway. And I just wanted to put in a plug for this and to urge you to approve this. This is something that when I was a board member, I was passionate about. I'm still passionate about it, and we've been working since 2019 on this. And really, the goal is to make this abandoned ball field into something that will attract people to it, and in the process deter some of the unsavory activity that has been going on there, from just loitering and littering, and the other extreme is to a homicide in 2019 on the trail just above the field, and random shots being fired into the condo units subsequent to that. So all the stakeholders in the immediate surroundings are very enthusiastic about this, as is the neighborhood coalition, as is the police department. The crime prevention unit folks have been supportive of this for a long time, and we think that it will attract a lot of people. I mean, people can come and they can walk or jog along the pathway that's around the periphery. Folks from the fellowship house can come and sit and enjoy the garden, and people can grab a book from the Little Free Library. We don't have a whole lot of amenities in Hunter's Woods Dogwood, and this would be a real asset to the immediate community and to Reston as a whole. So I just, again, I would like to urge you to please approve this so we can get moving on it. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Karen. Anyone else, LaShonda, or is that it?
Nope, that's it.
All right, great. Let me go around the room, see if there's any questions for Chris and Larry, and then we'll have some discussion. So, Jim, did you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Mike, did you have any questions?
No questions, sir. Glad to see this one back.
Bruce, did you have any questions?
I'm sorry. No, I don't have a question.
Great. Well, you guys always make me ask all the questions. So I love it. I'm glad you guys are back. A couple questions. So, and I was trying to read the site plan. It looks like there's 3 benches involved, and then when you're coming in from the Hunter Woods Community Center side, that's where the Little Free Library is. Is that there's a bench? I'm just trying to see if I'm reading this. There wasn't exactly a great key. So there's 3 benches. Is that right, Chris?
Doing a double check here. Ron is also one of our landscape architects at Community Horn. He is on the call. Maybe he knows that one off the top of his head while I do a quick confirmation here.
Yes, sir, that's correct. There are 3 benches. And you'll note also that in front of each of the benches, if you saw detail 6 on the previous drawing, there are imprints in the pavers in front of the benches in the languages of the fellowship house.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I saw a part of the application description was that there was going to be signage of some sort. Is the only signage is those actual distance markers that you were just referencing, or is there any physical signs on posts besides the Little Free Library? I didn't see any.
Sir. The signage is on the trail as distance markers for people using the trail.
Okay, great. Well, other than that, I think everything looks great. I think it will be an active way to use it. And then obviously, if you guys want to add lights, like Larry's mentioned, we have a standard kind of pathway light now, right, that we use. So It would be more of just a quantity kind of thing, right?
Yes, but Chris Stroik, who we've enlisted as our consultant, and will hopefully be coming back to you later this summer with a more comprehensive plan. We're looking at different alternatives with respect to pathway lighting, and as Karen said, you know, the Hunters Woods Neighborhood Coalition and the police are excited about us bringing that forward, particularly in this area. So that'll be a totally separate application, and it may be influenced actually by some of what you saw tonight with Ivy Oak.
Okay. All right.
Could I just ask Larry, do I understand correctly that the Larry Butler's sleds hill is still there, sledding hill?
There are some contours for the sledding hill, yes.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, we just got to get some snow.
Well, yeah, I hear you.
All right. Well, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the application as submitted.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
When does it start?
We hope we have some seed funding. I don't think we have enough funding to complete it. And so that is something that I would say, hopefully the RA board will consider as we go into the 2023 budget development cycle, which we've already started.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Moving on to our next item on our agenda, which is to revisit some updating guidelines for us. So is LaShonda presenting this? Is Cam presenting it? Is it everybody presenting it?
I'm going to present.
LaShonda this evening. I'm
All
taking
right,
a little break.
LaShonda. Great.
Just wanted to give a proposed updated schedule to revisit some of the outstanding revisions that were discussed at the July 20th meeting. You know, due to staffing issues, we kind of had a setback, but we just wanted to present a schedule to ensure that the guidelines are presented to the board and we can present it to the RA board and to BOC early next year. So just presenting a schedule of a list of revisions, additions that we will present in October. We'll have proposed review level updates. At the November meeting, we'll have proposed design guideline revisions, as well as a new proposed guideline to give a general overview of guidance of the design guidelines. And the schedule also goes over the tentative dates for next year for a full board public hearing, a BOC hearing, and to present to the full RA board in 2023. Did anyone have any questions?
I'll add to this, LaShonda. If everyone remembers, we discussed this by starting with a small working group of the DRB in late 2020, early 2021, in which that working group then presented this to the full DRB in terms of suggestions for reducing review levels for certain design guidelines, specifically the ones that you see on the left-hand side that we anticipate showing the DRB at the October full board meeting. This right side, we anticipate for the November full board meeting, which are new design guidelines, revisions, not necessarily talking about review levels, but more so clarifying some of the ambiguity in those design standards, specifically addressing some of the window inconsistencies with clusters and single families, which you can see in the kind of explanation document that is attached, where the review levels and then the requirements for those review levels are kind of inconsistent with one another. So for example, I believe in townhome clusters that are attached versus, townhome clusters that have an elevated deck versus a ground level deck. There is some inconsistencies there that staff can actually review a ground level deck, but can't review an elevated deck or vice versa. And so we want to make sure that the guidelines are consistent with one another from home type cluster, townhome cluster, single family, and then also single family detached as well. So all of this is kind of broken down in terms of those current review levels and what we're suggesting for the new review levels. Since most of the current DRB members are that were on that, most of the current DRB members were not on the DRB at the time that we were reviewing this. And of course, we're getting new DRB members, hopefully, at the end of this month. We thought it prudent to show you all what we were working on and get some feedback. If there's anything else additional that's not discussed on this document, if there's something that you'd like to add for us to address, we'd be happy to add that to this document so that we can then be ready for presenting those changes before the end of the year so that we can make sure that these are updated at the beginning of 2023.
So quick question, and don't hate me. So there's a lot of adding of staff review, and what I'm trying to understand is if, so let's just take the first, on this first slide as an example, right? Decks ground level, let's just say. So if there's no application needed, that means that the person who's building the deck, it meets our guideline that we have for ground level decks now, and they could just build it by right, correct?
Correct.
And if they are forming an application, they are doing something out of our guidelines, whether it be distance away from the house or material or who knows what for that example, right? So how would staff be making a review decision on a certain application to that is not falling within our guidelines? I guess would be my question, because isn't that left for the design review members to make that decision on those items?
So staff, go ahead, LaShonda.
No, I would say that it would be based on DRB approved previously. We would take that aspect to do a staff review level if we had something similar in nature.
I would take it one step further and build off of what LaShonda has said, specifically for decks ground level. It goes from no application, meaning you meet the standard or the design guideline, and then it jumps straight to con or panel. That's great. However, what ends up happening, and this is all about the member's experience, the design guideline doesn't say you can't do this. What it actually says is if you do X, Y, and Z, no applications required. If you do anything that is other than X, Y, and Z, the next level of review is con or panel. So you're not necessarily prohibiting anything. You're just saying that no applications required for this type of modification. Anything that doesn't meet that criteria requires a con or panel. For example, decks say that it can't stand more than 14 feet. Well, what if there was some sort of element that if we said anything between 15 feet and 17 feet could be staff reviewed, for example. So we're creating metrics that allow staff to still have some sort of reviewability that then does not require that application to go to a con or panel, which, as we all know right now, has been pretty detrimental to the existing DRB members. And if we were at full complement, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it still allows members to have their applications that are 1 foot more than what the no application level allows, but still have some sort of quick review.
Could I just say that, Kim, I think that hits an important point, that there's this, we often get to a situation where it's only the question of review level that is addressed in the guideline, is it, and less frequently what the guideline is. So, and I have thought about that it may be intention that it's all supposed to be, if it's very subjective, then it's just the go to the DRB. But in other situations, maybe there's things that there, as is being pointed out, if we were clearer about what things beyond don't need an application, but are acceptable with staff level, then it leaves things that require more discretion to the DRB. So it's that, Cam, I'm understanding it's just the guidelines are primarily level, review level guidelines, not design guidelines.
That is correct. And so it would be a much larger project, which we're happy to do to address that point. But this was our way of kind of figuring out a balance for now. And then hopefully when the DRB was at full complement, looking at this in a couple of years in terms of doing a total redo of the design guidelines. But this meets the needs of what we're trying to accomplish now. But we are at the DRB's disposal if that's what the DRB would like staff to look into and try and adjust. We're happy to do that.
I guess, and I'm not trying to, what, when you're making a decision as a staff, right? I guess what I worry is, what if we, and let's say down the road, let's say in 2 years, obviously our staff has had some turnover, right, Cam? I mean, there's not, I mean, I've been on the board for 3-4 years, and I know I've had multiple staff kind of supporting us over those years. So what I worry is that if we put more control in the staff's hands, that there's not necessarily always going to be that precedent set by the DRB, because there's been so many staff reviewed applications. If that makes sense. And I think there's obviously sometimes, and I think if we put some of those metrics, like you're saying, okay, so for, like radon equipment, usually the reason why I would even be coming to a review is because the person is trying to put it in the front of their house, because the radon is put on the back of the house like we prefer. Okay? And so, some of these I do think could go to staff review. But like, for an example, like signs, how would staff be able to, if it didn't meet the guidelines, how would staff be able to make that judgment call on, that subjective decision that usually is left to the independent body of the design review board to make that decision on something such as that, that is kind of very subjective of a request. Signage, it doesn't come up that often, but it does come up every so often. I don't know if that's
sure.
Is that really going to alleviate our workload? I guess would be my point.
What you're saying makes sense, but let me break it down a little bit more. So this is you all establishing what you would like staff to have staff review approval for. So what we're doing is suggesting to you what is an added staff review level. We've not created them yet because we don't want to create anything that you're not on board with. So what we would be proposing is a design guideline that has a staff review level that you say, yeah, that makes sense. Staff can totally do that. Check mark. The second part is with radon equipment. And it's these little tiny nuances that make the membership, it makes it difficult for the membership. So radon equipment, the guideline says no applications needed for radon equipment that is in the rear corner of your house or the rear of your home. Well, there was just a con in which one of you had to review this application because it was on the side and unit townhome, and the decision was to approve it, but to paint the downspout the same color as the siding. That is something staff could easily approve. That doesn't require a DRB member to review it. And so those little nuances are the things that we're talking about that better serve the member. We would even suggest, given the turnover of the department, if there was an opportunity for, let's say, a director level approval where I could review applications that has a certain level of something that you all establish for us to do. Happy to do that as well. But I understand your point about staff approving things, and there may be some issues, because there have been, frankly. But large and whole, since staff writes the suggested motions for con, it's very rare that a DRB member pulls the decisions that we have for con.
That's what I was just about to say, is I feel like con, even though it's that extra level of oversight, what is the harm of just putting stuff on a con, you know, where the staff is going to write the decision anyway, and it's almost the same as a staff review. It just has that one member oversight that you know, just gives it that second set of eyes. Quick, you know, I'll be honest, when I did con, it's a quick glance, and you know, if there's anything that's super flying in my face, then I'm going to call it. But normally, yeah, you're correct, right? The decisions that are made in con are usually all correct by staff, right?
Correct.
But
the only
but that's because you're able to apply a guideline though, and that's, I guess that radon equipment is actually a little unique that you guys did suggest an approval, because I know when I've had cons, there'll be a couple times in the past, not recently, but where I would pull a con and say, well, let's be a little more, you know, flexible with the member and say, okay, this, yes, it's against the guidelines, but I can make a judgment call that this is okay. I guess what's the harm of keeping it in the con?
The
pathway?
only harm that is there is basically 2 weeks of time. So instead of it being reviewed in 5 days by a staff member, it will take that person 2 weeks to get a decision just because it's going on con. So if the DRB is fine with that,
that's pretty quick. Yeah.
If the DRB is fine with that, we are happy to make that happen and continue to do it the way we've been doing it.
I got to wait 2 months if the county can. So 2 weeks is short. I mean,
well, when you're selling your home, 2 weeks is not really what you would like to do. And I, trust me, I get the argument that, you know, you should have submitted an application beforehand. And, you know, my team says that quite often. But bottom line is, you are in a situation which we want to try and help the member as much as possible. And in those particular situations, you know, clearly I make judgment calls every day, and I will of course continue to make those. But
well, what if it's if it's on a POA, what if we're able to, you know, that pushes it. I mean, I don't know if that complicates things, but it, you know, allows some expediency from you guys if we do want to, if it's involved for a POA for a member for, you know, we list off, you know, let's say it's these 8-9 things that I'm looking at, right, are things that were done without approval. It's part of a resale application, and staff is allowed to review those to expediently get them through the department, so we don't have people yelling at us and saying we're holding up their sale and blah, blah, blah. You know, is that something we could do?
That's meeting in the middle. That's a good creative idea, and I don't dislike it. Because that's specifically what we're trying to avoid. And, you know, the argument about, you know, this could be rewarding the people who are at the time of their sale of their home and they're not in compliance, versus the people who have submitted the application and proactively gone through the process. It's food for thought for the DRB to consider, but it's a great way to help us address the more vocal homeowners when it comes to preventing them from moving on to another, you know, home in Reston or another community somewhere else.
Yeah, so just as an example, Cam, I think you were on the meeting. It was for our panel. I think it was last week. There was the ground level deck, right, that the guy had built whatever 20 years ago, and he was now selling his home. And I think it was 1 foot past the 14 feet, right? I think it was, you know, but his cluster had an exact guideline that said, you know, decks are to be 14 feet. I believe I voted against the application. The other 2 members voted for it. That would be something though, obviously you guys would have the judgment call that say, okay, well, this obviously can't well, maybe you wouldn't. That's what I'm wondering is, would you guys push that automatically to a panel review because of the cluster guideline and because of even if it is part of a POA, I know we're trying to clear those out through through the system, but I guess at what level is it all just, it boils down to a judgment call between you guys on what would get kicked from staff to con or from staff to panel?
Yes, I think our team is very tuned to what the DRB may or may not approve. And so that often allows us to make the decision to put something straight to a panel or to staff disapprove it so that you all know it does not meet the guideline, but ultimately the DRB is the deciding factor on whether something gets approved or not at the review level that it's posted.
Okay. All right. I've done enough talking. Does anyone else have any other thoughts? Mike, did you have anything?
Nothing specifically, sir. I think I understand your points in terms of where do we draw the line. I do see the need, though, to expedite things wherever we can for the good of the whole community, so that taking some of the mystique and some of the frustration out of the DRB process is probably a good thing for everybody, right? I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay. Jim, did you have any thoughts?
No, I think this is a good direction.
Bruce, you have anything else?
I'd like to see, as I mentioned, more clarity on the guidelines versus just this open-endedness, because it gives no guidelines at all to the community. So I think that's good. I do think, though, that the more subjective the issue, the more I believe the setup of the DRB, the whole Reston deed is set up so that particularly the professionals on the DRB are involved. So I think that the changes have to keep in mind that some things are by that nature very subjective, and those are the things that I think that should lean toward the DRB members, because that's what I believe the guideline, the whole setup of the DRB is aimed for. But there are some things that are measurable, in particular, and more objective, that we could give. We know what the things we've approved, and then those are the ones that potentially there can be more staff opportunity. So I see those distinctions that I would try to be focused on as the review is being done here.
And we're more than happy to focus on clarifying the design guidelines on the top right-hand side of the spreadsheet that's on the screen. So for example, air conditioners, we had that huge conversation about condos having air conditioning units, and basically the design guideline says no applications required unless there is a replacement that is of similar size and acoustical sound. Well, what does that mean? So our suggestion was to put a metric that would then say, if you replace your air conditioning unit and it's more than 10 inches taller or wider than the last one, you need to submit an application that could be reviewed at staff. Signs. The guideline currently says that real estate signs require approval. What we have seen in the past is that people quite often who are not very pleased with their neighbors tend to file complaints for things that are technically a violation of the design guidelines. So we want to make sure that we're addressing those things that we see consistently across the board. And then, of course, to me, the most important part of this would be the general guidance, intro, and overview to the design guidelines, which we we don't currently have. There's no document that ever explains, other than the deed, which defines cluster standards and design guidelines, which one takes precedent over the other and what they really mean, especially to a new homeowner. So at the very least, the right side is priority for staff to make sure that people are understanding and getting rid of that ambiguity that Bruce was talking about in terms of having metrics that actually establish what is and what is not permitted. And then we can come back if there's more feedback on the left-hand side and continue to do cons. I will say probably more than likely you'll continue to see cons with about 20 applications until we get additional DRB members, which hopefully will be soon, fingers crossed. But that should then take you all out every month and a half instead of every 5 weeks, or every 2 months instead of every 5 weeks that it's currently being done. So
yeah, and obviously I'm speaking for myself, but I think it's okay to have a con that's long. I mean, it's because they're quick. You know, I'm quickly going through them. It's not like it's not like it takes 3 hours to go through all the con decisions, right? So I would go through, and if there's, it's a quick review of whether it's approved or denied. And then I'm going to look, okay, for example, it's a fence between two townhouses or something, let's say, right? I still think having just that little extra level of review, it also just keeps it where the DRB is still an independent organization making the decision, I guess would be what I would be afraid is that staff starts reviewing a bunch of things and then members, you guys deny it. And I know this is one thing that and I don't know if this is something we can put in the guidelines as well. And I'm not sure, maybe Cam, you can point me in the direction of why this happens. But there's sometimes where somebody is appealing a decision, but they've never been to a panel before. And I have to accept their appeal. Is that from a con decision, or is that from a staff decision?
Yes. So Resolution 8 reviews the DRB application process, which clearly establishes that a decision made at con has to be appealed. And so what was happening, quite frankly, before I got here, was that anyone who was denied at con could just request a panel review. And that's not in line with the resolution. So if you'd like to change that, which you'll see in the coming months, probably in July or August, we will be presenting, hopefully, some suggestions on revising that policy resolution to address several things that the DRB should be looking at, specifically related to the appeals process, including having an appeals process for staff disapprovals.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my point, and maybe this is just me, I just feel like every member should have the right to come before a panel if they want to, right? You can tell them, hey, it's probably an uphill battle, but at least everyone wants to have that ability to talk to us and I like to almost, it uses it as a time where I can educate. Let's say they're going against the cluster standard. They want one specific light on their house, and I have to explain to them, this is why we can't approve it, versus just, obviously it's easier just to have, you guys be the bad guy and just deliver the bad news. But then I don't think that is helping the members necessarily understand our process and our thought. And maybe once you guys put in this general guidance, right, overview that says, cluster guidelines take precedent, then we don't have a lot of those situations, right? That'll weed out some of those difficult decisions we have to have with members when they really want to do something in their cluster that just isn't approvable by us because their guideline specifically says it cannot be done. So anyways, can I, not that I have that much time, but can I go through this and mark it up and send it over to you guys in an email and just see what I feel like is good, and other stuff that maybe is a little maybe questionable in my opinion?
Sure. So what we'll do is we'll wait for your feedback and any other DRB members' feedback in email, and then we will email out an updated version of this to address those specific things that we're discussing this evening. My takeaway is looking at kind of a resale exception for some of the elements on the left-hand side, and then focus on the ambiguity of some of the standards specifically mentioned on the right-hand side and the general guidance and overview. Did I get that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank goodness these things are recorded. I didn't write anything down.
Neither did I. So, but I got a pretty good idea of which ones I want to mark. So, anyone else have anything? Any other thoughts?
Nothing for me.
All right, cool. All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, staff.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, fellow
everyone.
board members. Hopefully, we're going to be filled out sooner than later from what I saw from your email, Cam. So,
Absolutely. Thursday, we should have hopefully 3 new DRB members, 2 design professionals and 1 layperson who also coincidentally was an architect in his pre-retirement life. So hopefully that goes well and we'll have 1 position, a design professional position to fill.
awesome. Good work. That's all you guys. I appreciate your diligence and pushing through to find some people to help us out. So,
Thank you very much. We
Thanks,
worked really
everyone.
hard to get that done.
Good job.
I am
Night.
very happy to fill us out. Makes us feel like we actually can field a board, which has been tough to do over the last year, it feels like. So, all right, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Take
Have a
care,
good
Michael.
night.
Yeah, good
See you,
night.
everybody.